first time.
The last couple of years must have been very confusing for a lot of the studios trying to make certain movies with different rights to characters and to whichever ones they're trying to go to right now, because the New Mutants is sort of one of those, where it is part of the Fox franchise of X-Men and stuff, but then it also got bought out by Disney, and there was a bunch of delays making the film, and COVID happened, and there's a bunch of things they're trying to do and then they couldn't do, and they wanted this to be sort of like a teen-ish movie that was supposed to be, I guess, like what they're going for, but then they wanted to make it a horror type of film, which to me I thought was actually a pretty good idea to, try to like make a different genre of the superhero stuff within their own franchise a little bit. That's not a bad idea to me, if you ask. But I only know just a little bit of that background stuff. I do not have all those details and all that research on what happened there. So now I'm just going to talk about the movie, The New Mutants. It starts out with a girl named Danny Moonstar, who is a Native American, and there's a huge storm going on, it seems. There's a bunch of chaos. A car on fire gets thrown away. You can assume that it's maybe the wind, but probably not. There's something else going on. You hear some growling here and there as well. The dad brings her to the woods and leaves her, and it's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to go help some people. And then he gets flung back, kind of massacred a little bit. And they weren't too graphic on that part, to be honest. She runs away and knocks herself out. She tumbles down a hill and, gets knocked out. Wakes up in a creepy hospital, handcuffed to a bed, and is like in a locked room and all by herself. And then a Dr. Reyes comes in and tells her about what's going on, and then sits her down on the couch saying, you're the only one left in your whole village, and you are a mutant. And they are pretty clear about what they are. They pretty much give sort of the same spiel they do in the X-Men trilogy, the original one from the 2000s, and how it's like a new evolutionary thing. There's some people that have the powers, and sometimes they don't come in until they're around teenage era, so they hit puberty-ish. And yeah, so they're trying to figure out what her power is essentially. And then we meet up with the rest of the cast here. We have the character Rain, which I will probably call Arya Stark in this review here and there, because that's what she reminds me of. We've got Ann Taylor-Joy playing as Illy, I think was her name. It could be Lily. I'm just mishearing it maybe, but I think it was Illy. And we'll get to these characters individually in just a second here. Then we got another dude, I kind of forget his name, who is basically similar to Pyro, but not entirely. I'll get back to him in a sec. And then there's another dude I'm just calling Rocket Man. I think they call him Kentucky or Sam in the film, but I kind of refer to him as, Rocket Man, because that's what he essentially does. And these are your main teens in the movie, and then there's Dr. Reyes. So that is pretty much the cast. They don't cast, there's no other characters in the film. These are the main characters. There's less than 10 characters in this film. I guess you could count the dad as one as well, but he's only in it for literally a few seconds, so kind of a quickie that goes away. And yeah, so this is one of the things where you could probably tell that they had an idea for this type of film, but didn't necessarily have everything work out the way they wanted. There's no other staff. There is no other guards. There is any other human or mutant on the premises at all. There's just a bunch of cameras and the doctor, which is a little weird. I for a second thought that maybe she's like a multiplier mutant or something, like multiplication man or something. But no, it turns out that the doctor is a mutant that has like a barrier controlling powers, like force field. So it kind of keeps the kids locked in, and it makes it feel like a prison to them. And there's a huge implication throughout the whole thing. They're saying that they're trying to help them control their powers so that they can move on to another facility, to her superior's facility, and she's trying to, get the kids prepped up for that, and implies that this is a thing that has happened before, and the fact that she's a mutant says, oh, maybe there is, and they do imply heavily that it's Professor X, that it's the X-Men that the kids are essentially trying to become at some point. They reference the X-Men as superheroes in the film, so this is supposed to maybe be connected directly to the other X-Men films, but again, I'm kind of unclear on how connected they're supposed to be in this film. It's vague references that maybe they are, maybe they aren't to the actual X-Men. There's a point where one of them sits in a wheelchair and is like, oh, who do you think's her superior? And, he's in a wheelchair doing the, mind reading type of position. So they all assume they're being trained to be superheroes, but we find something else out later. But anyway, so their powers. So one of the guys, he is basically a Scorch Man. I don't know what he reminds me of more, like the Human Torch or Pyro. I'd say he's probably more like the Human Torch, except for that he can't fly. He like turns himself into fire, but he's like made of charcoal, and he can't fly. He can't like shoot energy fire blasts out of his hands or anything. He just seems to become fire. And later on, he's like punching these desks being thrown at him, these chairs or benches. But so I guess he gets some level of super strength from it, but there didn't seem to be that much more of a like increase with that. The other guy, Kentucky, he basically just shoots around like a rocket and has trouble landing. So I'm just calling him Rocket Man. There's not really anything particular with that ability from what I could tell. It's just he can fly around and he's really fast. And that's, I don't know what else really, I have no idea. And then we get the Arya Stark chick, who she can turn into a dog. Her power is she can transform into a dog. Now, that's a little, it's kind of like Twilight, but without it being like a big dog. It's like just a regular house dog, essentially, a domesticated little doggy she can turn into. But I guess there's something where she can sort of partly transform, where she's not, like, she can access the abilities of a dog. Like, I guess we'll call them the powers of a dog. Where she can like have her nails be a little bit sharper like a dog's. She can have an heightened hearing, and she can see in the dark. She can sniff things out a little more. She can like pounce a little bit better. So I guess we'll have that as her power, other than transforming directly into a dog, I suppose, which is not the worst idea, but also kind of meh on the power scale there. And then you've got the Ann Taylor-Joy character. This one is quite bizarre. So she can like, I'm kind of having a little bit of trouble of understanding what her actual abilities are, because she can teleport, but not just teleport like a normal teleport. She teleports into like another dimension that she implied that she created. She pretty much said that she created this place, and she calls it purgatory. And but that could just mean her interpretation of what else has happened, essentially. She also has a little hand puppet that she carries around, a little crazy, and she's also kind of a bully to the rest of the group, which is whatever. She has a lot of very cringy type of lines here and there, like, let's go get that bitch, and, oh, the thing's made of magic, so am I. Like, just very, roll your eyes kind of dialogue, but, it's all right. Her little puppet can turn into, like, a real little dragon, I guess, and breathe fire, and she has like a electric or energy sword of some kind that she takes out of her dimension. Her eyes glow all blue, and she seems to have some level of strength. Her arm gets like kind of titanium-ish or, metal like, but only her one arm, not any other part of her body, just her arm. So she's kind of a confusing one. She was like tormented by these smiley dudes, which they go into huge effect, trying to have them look very scary, like no eyes, big mouth and teeth, and creepy, slender like bodies. But I think if they had a little bit more mystery around them, I think that would be a little bit more freaky than showing them as they were. But whatever. It's what they wanted to do with the thing. So that's a rundown on the powers that they have. And now let's just go to Danny's. Her power is essentially she can bring out people's fears. And the way they describe it is that she could bring out their fears until it kills them, which I don't think that's too specific with what it actually does. She can bring out their fears, and as she learns to control it, then she could probably manifest people's fears and choose to have them attack or something. I assume it's her ability in the comics or something. I don't know. And this is kind of connected to her, like, Cherokee stuff, I guess, with like the bear anyway. At least like the bear being her fear, I guess, the evil part of I don't know, something. They talk about it in the beginning. And this film had a lot of potential to be pretty good. I was very thrilled that this was not a like world-ending, universe-busting, galaxy type of thing that the MCU does, and it wasn't like all the mutants or all the humans' lives are all going to be at risk on the whole planet like they do in the X-Men ones quite often. Like, they get pretty close to like, apocalypse level stuff and the X-Men franchise as well, and it's just kind of like, oh my god, this was very contained. It wasn't like it's going to be the end of the freaking world. This was just the characters that are here. You're supposed to care about them and what's going to happen, and that I think was done pretty well. Could it have been better? Extremely. This was not too great. There's a whole scene where they sneak into a room where they think it's like nobody can see them with the cameras, and they just take turns like doing a lie detector test on each other, which feels like it's more of a tool to tell the audience what their backstories are, which, yeah, they could have probably had a better scene for this, but based on the production that this film had, it's a little, hard to say with, what if this was a scene they had to shove in there for it. And apparently there wasn't that much reshoots, I guess, is what I heard, which is odd because usually the films these days are full of reshoots with stuff. But yeah, they end up, the doctor lady at some point is trying to kill Danny because she gets a message from a superior that she's too dangerous and to terminate her. And she has like mentioned that her mom worked at a vet and putting an animal down that sucks, but there's something to that, I suppose. And then the rest of the team is coming together. They're fighting these like demons that are being formed from Danny, and they're taking them on and beating them up and everything. And then they go and have to battle this huge bear construct that actually kills the doctor, but Danny's like mostly passed out and isn't able to control this entirely, so they're fighting for their lives together as a team. And then she ends up being able to control the bear at the end, and it's fine. I guess it's fine. I think they probably could have thought out something a little bit better for the climax here, but I think it was okay considering what it is. There are other aspects in the film that I didn't touch on necessarily. There's a lot, and this is a film that I might go back to do a little bit more research on, to do like a better video on the Rookie Critic channel. Maybe. I'm not making promises here, but this did intrigue me enough to want to speculate a little bit more on it. I actually watched a couple of videos after I finished the film, so I have a little bit of that knowledge I had at the beginning that I didn't know before going into it. And yeah, I guess another point to mention is that there is a little bit of lesbianness in this little movie here, but it did not come off at all in like the SJW type of woke way. It seemed like this was not part of the marketing at all. They did not market that there's going to be like a gay character. And she's like, they show her watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and she's, a teenage age. I figured like Twilight type of area zone, and she hasn't been with anybody before, and she's been locked in this school thing, and the new girl comes by and is, around and nice. And so it's like, this stuff kind of made enough sense to me. I was like, this doesn't seem like a super forced, match, and it's not the main part of the plot, and it was okay. It wasn't too bad. Arya Stark's character and Danny kiss a little bit, and they like each other, but that was mostly it. And I figured like that being like a human struggle of their own, like desires, as well as their mutant struggle with what's going on and how to control it, and how they could be in society. But yeah, it turned out, so I think I might have skipped over, so there's a corp, it's XS Corp or Essex Corp, or what, it's an evil corporation thing that runs the facility. It's not the X-Men, it's not Professor X, it's the opposite. According to one of the videos I watched, apparently it's like Mr. Sinister is like the opposite of Xavier and wants to have evil mutants or something. I don't know. I don't read the comics, so I have no idea really about that, and I have not heard of this character in the films, so lost on me, man. Lost on me. And the doctor, yeah, so they've been like training killers apparently, and I guess there's a scene where Danny is able to look inside of their heads. She's like able to not only access their fears, but look in their heads here and there. And one of the things she saw was a clip that I guess was from Logan, where it was like a kid, like, beating up some guards or something, or doing something with there. It looked like similar footage, but it's been a while since I watched Logan, so I'm not exactly sure. But I feel like if this film were to have given, if it had even a few more months to properly, finalize its story a little bit, make some of the scenes a little bit better, and, figure out what they really wanted to do with it, this could have probably been pretty cool. But I don't know. I give them credit for being a little more risky and going a different route, especially with the X-Men franchise, but it's still, it's a mixed bag for me. Like, ultimately it's a mixed bag. I can't give this like a huge, positive love or huge hate. It's a middle of the road one that I wish was better, that I think could be a lot better, but I don't think they're ever gonna like even approach this area now, especially since it did horrible. It did horrible. Like, they're not gonna try to make movies like this, unfortunately. But anyway, that was my first time watching it. I'll see you guys on the next one.